What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Paramount Global, ticker symbol PARA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of tomorrow's trading day, Thursday, February 1st. Para stock here today, finishing the day up 6.65%. Of course, we got some Byron Allen takeover potential news. The stock popping hard this morning in pre-market and then really fading throughout the remainder of the day. At the peak here from last night's after-hour movement, we saw a move all the way up about 25%, opened up about 14%, and then faded throughout the middle of the day here throughout regular trading hours, about another 6%, but still holding a 6.5%, more than a 6.5% move here today. Not all that bad, all things considered. Now let's move on here to the 5-minute. I just want to show you guys something in relation to volume, okay? So we see that pop obviously occurred on very low volume, very early in the pre-market. That is normal. But if we zoom in here to today and look at the actual intraday fade, okay, you see a lot of that fading in pre-market still on pretty low volume. Off the open, naturally, we got the highest volume of the day. That's not out of the ordinary. And then through the kind of slow fade, very low volume throughout the middle of the day, which is not unexpected from a volume perspective. But remember, guys, you're going to hear me say this a lot. If a stock is moving in your favor, you want it to be doing so on as much volume as possible. And if it's moving against your current sentiment, you want it to be on as little volume as possible. Off the open here this morning, the highest volume of the day, stock holding on to $15 a share, but then fading below as the volume decreased throughout the day, which then, of course, picked up again just a tad, not all that much though, into the close. And then we had this big after hours candle. Now, let's get some real context here and lay out some bullish and bearish scenarios for the next couple of days, really in particular looking at tomorrow. Before we do that, guys, hey, listen, if you want to come trade with us, scalp setup alerts, swing trade setup alerts, unusual options activity alerts, human verified by me, by the way, every single day, and platinum one-on-one. The link to join our Roensch Capital Gold server is in the pinned comment down there. Hope to see you join, get grandfathered in at the current rate. Let's take a look at the 30-minute chart here. So here on the 30-minute, this is where we start to get kind of serious about the self-fulfilling prophecy technical indicators, right? We want the most popular technical levels, indicators, okay, like moving averages, on the most popular time frames. So naturally, I'm looking at the 30-minute, the 4-hour, and the daily, all collectively, by the way, not just one or the other. And I'm looking at the levels that are by far the most popular, the 50 period and the 200 period. The 50 period is that white line, the 200 period is the gray line. Why? Not for any particular reason except that they are self-fulfilling prophecies. Okay, I firmly believe that. I think that is the natural explanation of TA, the most simple way to put it. People watch the most popular levels. They believe they work. They program algorithms to work. They begin to work. And then you have more reasoning to believe that they work. So looking here in particular on the 30-minute chart moving forward, see that 50 period, that white line? We're right up against it. It's crossing over 1450. So if you're a bull in the next day or two, ideally looking for that to hold here on the 30-minute. Maybe test it. Listen, I don't care if we bounce off it 3-4 times. Just bust up out of the hole, get up through 15 ideally, because 15 is going to be somewhat of a psychological level as well. I would not be surprised to see that turn into a technical level. And if you are bearish, listen, I'm always going to give both sides here. You want to see a breakdown through 1450, that 50 period moving average here on the 30-minute, making our way down for a potential test of 14. I think that's the clear next psychological target in a lot of bears' minds if we were to see a downside break of that 50 period, specifically here on the 30-minute. Let's move on now to the 4-hour. This one's very popular. Now this one here tells a little bit of a different story as well. We have that 200 period that we are just around. That's currently sitting at right about 1468, 1469, 1470, that region. So tomorrow on the 4-hour, I have to add that to the watch list. I'm clearly paying attention to that 200 period. And I think a lot of other investors, funds, institutions, and traders will also have their eye on that level, making decisions around that level, programming algorithms to make decisions around that level for the sole reasoning of believing that others will be as well. So listen, if you're bullish looking at the 4-hour chart tomorrow, remember to look at all the variations of time frames, by the way. But if you're bullish, you're looking for a hold of that 200 period, likely going to end up somewhere around 1470 for that moving average there. Looking for a hold, again, break up through 15 ideally. And if you're a bear, or for example, if you're a bull looking for what you wouldn't necessarily want to see on a day-to-day basis, a downside break, for example, retest then of the 200 period and fade downside off of a retest, respecting that as resistance, that would be discouraging, I think, to a lot of bulls and psychologically encouraging to a lot of bears, okay? Now, this is kind of the most important chart of the day. This is the granddaddy of all charts. We have the daily chart. Each candle represents 1 day of trading. And then you have the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. The two most popular technical indicators on the most popular chart in the world. This is what every single person is, or should be at least, watching. Notice how it's not complicated. There's not any fancy indicators. I have the chart with volume, implied volatility down here for options reference and stock reference, at least for me, in my opinion. And the two most popular technical moving averages, right? That's all. Gets too complicated, things start to break because, again, TA, it works when enough people are looking at it. I think personally, if not enough people are watching it, it's probably not worth watching, at least in my opinion. So here on the daily, this is really big, guys. So we are currently seeing the 50-day and the 200-day almost come together. That 200 is breaking below 15 bucks a share, and the 50 is creeping up toward 1460. We're kind of like right testing that 50-day, aren't we? Or at least right in between that channel. So here tomorrow on the daily chart, we're testing that 50. If ideally from a bullish perspective, again, the story doesn't really change. We just get confirmation now looking at other time frames because things are lining up so well. If you're a bull, you want to see us bounce off that 50-day, rip up toward that $15 area, ideally break through the 200-day and hold that. That would be a really good sign, and then we can look to holding that the next couple of days. But if you're a bear, a downside break of the 50-day moving average and a hold beneath there, and then especially if you end up seeing a backside retest of the white line, like let's say you break down through, you retest the white line, respect it as resistance, and then fade downside, a lot of bears are going to see that as a sign of encouragement. Not the ideal situation for the bulls. Okay, implied volatility worth taking a look at. Currently sitting in the mid to high mid region here compared to the last 6 months or so. So just understand that if you are buying options in this range, you're paying maybe a slight implied volatility Vega premium, right? But nothing crazy by any means. Now let's take a look at the options chain and see what the traders are thinking heading into tomorrow. This is, of course, just the data from today. We can pull some really good stuff out of here that I think is often overlooked. 156,700 total contracts traded. That's a good sample size. We have plenty of data. I like to see volume as high as possible so that we don't get any one big whale coming in and throwing things off. But this is pretty good here. We're seeing about 63% calls. That's 98,350 calls compared to 58,391 puts. Short-term speculation here, right? The 0 to 20 delta. What are the very short-term options buyers and sellers thinking? Well, you have 28,000 calls in that range and 22,200 puts. So a slight bullish lean in the short-term speculation as well. So overall, understand that this is the data, right? There's no opinion here. This is data. The options traders, undeniably so, both overall ratio and in the short-term speculation are leaning to the bullish side. But as always, the masses can, of course, be incorrect. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, helps out tremendously if you just simply leave a like on the video before heading out, and I'll see you in the next one.